When a woman dies, the world doesn't stop spinning, the sun still rises, the clock still ticks, the traffic still moves. But for her husband, everything inside him comes to a halt. It's a strange thing how someone can be here one day and gone the next. How a voice that filled a room now only echoes in memory, and the man who once shared a life with her finds himself standing in a silence so loud it shakes his soul. Because no one prepares a man for this kind of loss. No one tells him that the strongest blow is not the funeral, not the tears, but the morning after, when the house is quiet and he wakes up alone in their bed for the first time. You see, most men don't fall apart the way you might think. They don't scream into the sky. They don't collapse to their knees in poetic grief. No, they break slowly, quietly, in small, invisible ways. They keep doing the dishes, but her coffee mug stays untouched in the cabinet. They mow the lawn, but leave her garden untouched as if she's coming back. They talk less, smile politely, function at work, but inside, there's a war between wanting to move on and not wanting to forget. But here's the truth that reveals itself in time. Grief, at its core, is just love with nowhere to go. It's not weakness, it's not failure, it's the clearest sign that what they had mattered. That her presence wasn't convenience, it was connection. It was meaning, it was home. We only understand the value of presence in the echo of absence. It's one of those truths that rarely lands when everything feels whole. As long as someone is here, breathing, moving, speaking, we assume their presence is guaranteed. We take their laughter as background noise, their questions as part of the routine, their touch as something small but steady, like a heartbeat we never notice until it stops. When a woman dies, her absence doesn't just leave a physical space. It rearranges time. Suddenly mornings feel too quiet, meals feel incomplete, and the ordinary moments, the ones that once passed unnoticed, begin to haunt. The scent of her perfume in a hallway, a jacket still hanging behind the door, a half-used bottle of her shampoo in the shower. These things now scream her name, reminders that her presence used to live in every corner of the home. And that's the thing, we don't always see presence when it's right in front of us. We think love is grand gestures, anniversaries, gifts. But real love is much quieter. It's found in shared routines, in knowing glances across a room, in late-night talks that mean everything and nothing at the same time. It's in the way she remembered the grocery list without writing it down, in how she always knew when something was wrong, even when he said, "I'm fine," in how she waited up even when he was late, in how she believed in him when he doubted himself. All of these little things, the presence of presence, feel invisible when they're part of the everyday. We assume there's always more time. We'll tell her thank you tomorrow, we'll sit down and talk next week, we'll plan that trip later, but later has a way of never arriving, and when she's gone, it hits. The echo of what once was, now deafening in its silence. Grief is not always about dramatic tears or broken sobs. Sometimes it's just walking into a room and instinctively calling out her name and realizing no one will ever answer again. It's reaching for her hand in bed and grabbing nothing but a cold sheet. It's hearing a song she loved and feeling your chest tighten because you can't turn and say, "Hey, this was your favorite." It's in these moments, these deeply personal, heartbreaking, soul-wrenching moments, that presence is understood, not as a physical body, but as a force that shaped his entire world. And yet, strangely, it's through absence that something else is born. Clarity. The clarity of what mattered most, the clarity that all the small things were never small, that the conversations, the touches, the routines, they were the real love story all along. Some men, in the face of this echo, break down. Others break open. They begin to live differently because now they see differently, they speak kinder words, they slow down, they appreciate the people around them. Not because they've forgotten her, but because they carry her. Her presence, though no longer physical, becomes spiritual, it becomes purpose. In absence, her impact deepens. He begins to see her influence, not just in what she did, but in who he becomes, in how he fathers their children, in how he loves others, in how he remembers what really matters. So yes, presence is best understood in its absence, but that understanding, painful as it is, becomes the beginning of a new kind of presence, one that lives not in the body, but in the heart. One that doesn't fade, but forms the foundation of a life lived in memory, meaning, and love. Grief isn't just pain, it's proof that love existed. When someone you love dies, people often rush to help you feel better. They say things like, "She's in a better place," or "At least you had the time you did." And while their intentions may be kind, the truth is, nothing really softens the blow. Nothing fills the space that person held in your life. That emptiness, the ache in your chest, the heaviness you carry in the quiet moments, it's not just sorrow, it's something deeper, something sacred. Grief is not a sign of weakness. It's not a flaw to be fixed or a phase to be rushed through. It's a reflection, a mirror showing you how deeply you loved, how deeply you were loved, and how connected you truly were to another human being. It's not just the pain of losing them. It's the echo of every beautiful moment you shared, the dinners, the jokes, the whispered dreams before falling asleep, the plans you made for next year. All of it now replace in your mind, not to torment you, but to remind you that what you had was real. Pain always follows love, not because love failed, but because it mattered. We don't grieve things that never meant anything to us. We don't cry over people who are just passing by. No, we grieve when something precious is gone. Grief is the cost of love. And it is a cost worth paying. Some people try to hide it. They bury their emotions under distractions, work, or silence. They tell themselves they need to be strong for others, to keep moving forward. But real strength isn't pretending you're okay. Real strength is allowing yourself to feel it all, to miss them so much it physically hurts, to cry without apology, to sit in the stillness and admit this broke me. And that's okay. Because grief isn't the end of the story. It's part of it. It's part of the love story that stops just because someone is gone. In fact, grief keeps that love alive in a new form. It transforms from something you share in daily life to something you carry in your heart. You'll see it in the smallest moments, in the way you fold the laundry like she did, in the way you hear her voice in your head when making decisions, in the instinct to pick up the phone and call her before remembering she's not there. These are not signs of brokenness. These are signs of love's persistence. It refuses to vanish just because a life has ended. And over time, if you let it, grief teaches you. It teaches you to treasure the people still in your life, to say, I love you more often, to show up with presence, not just presence, to make time for the little things because one day they will be the big things. It also teaches you about yourself. You begin to see how deeply you're capable of feeling, how resilient your spirit truly is, and how grief, though painful, is not something to get over, but something to grow around, like a tree growing around a wound in its trunk, stronger, shaped forever, but still reaching toward the light. So the next time your heart aches, and the next time you break down at the sound of her favorite song or the smell of her perfume, remember this: it hurts because it was real. It hurts because you had something worth grieving, and that is something beautiful. Grief isn't just pain, it's proof. Proof that love existed, proof that it changed you, and proof that even in absence that love still speaks. Most men don't break down, they break inward. When a man loses the woman he loves, it's not always obvious. He might not collapse at the funeral, he may not cry in front of friends or scream out loud in the middle of the night, but that doesn't mean he's okay. His pain doesn't explode, it implodes, it turns inward, quiet and heavy, like a storm no one else can see. Because from the time boys are young, many are taught a dangerous message. Real men don't cry. Real men are strong. Real men push through. So when grief comes raw, paralyzing, overwhelming, many men don't know how to process it. They don't talk about it. They don't reach out. They swallow it. They tell themselves to man up, to carry on, to be the rock everyone else leans on. And while they may look composed on the outside, inside, they're unraveling. He might still show up for work. He might still smile when someone asks how he's doing, but then he goes home and the silence is deafening. Her favorite mug is still in the cupboard. Her side of the bed is untouched. The air is still filled with traces of her, and every small reminder chips away at his heart. He begins to move through the world like a ghost of who he used to be, present but not fully there, laughing but not with his eyes, functioning but not feeling. And the hardest part, most people don't notice, because he's doing what men are expected to do, holding it together. But grief doesn't disappear just because it's hidden. It collects. It gathers in the corners of his soul, weighing him down. It shows up as exhaustion, as irritability, as isolation. He may stop talking as much. He may withdraw. He may dive into work or distractions, trying to escape the ache that follows him everywhere. But no matter how fast he runs, the truth remains. He is grieving. Not every wound bleeds. Some just stay open beneath the surface. And yet, in that silence, something remarkable can happen if he allows it, if he gives himself permission to break, not in shame, but in honesty. If he stops trying to be fine and starts allowing himself to be real, to cry, to feel, to remember without rushing to forget. Because only by facing the pain can he begin to heal from it. The world doesn't need men who suppress their sorrow. It needs men who are brave enough to admit when they're hurting, who understand that vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage, it's strength, in its rawest, most human form. And when he finally speaks, maybe to a friend, maybe to a counselor, maybe to himself, he begins to release the pressure that's been building inside. The grief doesn't vanish, but it loosens its grip. He starts to breathe again, to feel again, to reconnect with who he is and with the world around him. Over time, he learns that grief is not something to escape, but something to carry with care. He learns that expressing his pain doesn't dishonor her memory. It honors it because it means she mattered, because it means he loved deeply. Most men don't break down, they break inward. But the ones who find their way back, who find the courage to feel, to heal, and to grow, they don't just survive the loss, they are transformed by it. And in that quiet strength, a new kind of man is born, one who is not just strong on the outside, but whole on the inside. Loss makes us revisit what truly mattered. When someone we love dies, especially someone as close and constant as a spouse, the world suddenly shifts. What once seemed urgent fades, deadlines, meetings, opinions of others, all the noise that once felt so loud goes silent. And in that silence, we begin to see clearly. The things we argued about, stressed over, and prioritized so heavily, they start to feel small. The dishes left in the sink, the forgotten text reply, the nights we chose to stare at a screen instead of into each other's eyes. They all resurface in memory, not with anger, but with quiet regret. Because when the person is gone, we realize how often we miss the moments that truly mattered. Loss has a way of stopping time. Not in the literal sense, but in the way it forces us to pause, to reflect on the life we lived beside them, and the life we sometimes took for granted. It becomes a mirror, showing us how we loved, how we showed up, what we gave, and what we didn't. A husband who loses his wife often begins to replay their life like a movie in his head. Not the big events, not the wedding, not the vacations, but the small, intimate frames. Her laugh in the kitchen, the way she touched his shoulder when walking by, the sound of her voice humming from the next room. These are the things that surface first. These are the things that stay. In loss, we began to recognize that the heart of a relationship was never found in grand gestures, but in the everyday presence, in how we made each other feel seen, in how we chose to listen, to forgive, to show up, even in the ordinary, the little things, the shared morning coffee, the way she knew how he liked his shirts folded, the inside jokes. These were the real treasure. And when they're gone, we realize how often we were distracted, how often we thought there's always tomorrow, how easy it was to get caught up in life and forget to live it with the person right beside us. That realization hits hard. It humbles us. It changes us. Loss teaches us that time is not guaranteed and presence is not promised. It whispers the truth we don't want to face, that everything can change in a moment. And that lesson, while painful, gives us a gift, the ability to see life through a new lens. After loss, many people begin to live differently. They start to speak more kindly, listen more fully, love more intentionally. Not because they've forgotten the one they lost, but because they carry them forward. In every new choice, every new day, the past becomes a compass, not a weight. And in remembering what truly mattered, they begin to shape a life that honors that truth. They become more aware of the people they still have. They stop to look their children in the eyes to say, I love you, without holding back. They pick up the phone. They slow down at dinner. They choose presence over perfection because they know now, deeply, painfully, beautifully, that love is the only thing we leave behind. Loss is a terrible teacher, but a powerful one. It strips away the noise and leaves behind clarity. It shows us what really mattered, not the titles, the possessions, or the perfect plans, but the love, the connection, and the moments we shared. And in that awareness, we're offered a second chance, not to bring them back, but to live better because of them. The strongest men aren't those who move on fast, but those who honor her by how they live after. There's a quiet pressure placed on men when they lose the woman they love. Society doesn't often give them space to grieve out loud. Instead, they're expected to keep it together, stay strong, carry the weight, and move forward. They're told, she'd want you to be happy, or you have to be strong for the kids, as if strength means pretending the pain isn't there. But real strength doesn't come from suppressing grief or pushing forward without pause. Real strength is found in the stillness, in the ache that doesn't go away, in waking up every day to a reality that no longer includes her, and choosing, anyway, to live a life that reflects her love. Because the truth is, moving on isn't the goal. The strongest men aren't the ones who forget, replace, or rush ahead. The strongest men are the ones who carry her memory with them, not as a weight that holds them down, but as a reason to rise. He remembers her not just in photos or anniversaries, but in how he lives, in how he treats others, in how he slows down now because she taught him that presence matters more than productivity, in how he speaks to his children with the same warmth she had, in how he chooses to live with heart because she always led with hers. He becomes more intentional, more grounded, not because he's recovered from the loss, but because he's grown through it. He doesn't erase her presence from his life. He weaves it into everything he does. Her voice becomes his compass. Her kindness becomes his standard. Her dreams become his mission. Grief changes a man, and if he lets it, it deepens him. It softens the rough edges and widens the heart. The man who once prided himself on control now values connection. The man who once rushed through life now notices the beauty in small things, the things she used to pause for. And it's in those small moments that he feels closest to her. The smell of coffee in the morning, a certain song on the radio, the laughter of their child. These are not signs that he's stuck in the past. They are reminders that she's still part of his story. Time may pass and the sharpness of grief may dull, but the love doesn't. It evolves, it lives in his actions, in his words, in the legacy he builds. And that legacy is the greatest way he can honor her, not by moving on, but by moving forward with meaning. He doesn't chase distractions to numb the pain. He doesn't look for someone else to fill the space she left. Instead, he embraces the space as sacred. He lets it shape him. And over time, that space becomes something beautiful, not an emptiness, but a quiet garden where her memory lives and grows. This kind of man may not look like a warrior in the traditional sense, but make no mistake, he is strong because it takes courage to keep your heart open after it's been broken. It takes strength to carry grief and still give love. And it takes integrity to live in a way that keeps someone's spirit alive. So no, the strongest men aren't the ones who get over it quickly. They're the ones who take their time, who sit with the pain, who choose to live in honor of the love they lost, not because they are stuck in the past, but because they know love never really dies. Death ends a life, not a relationship. When someone we love dies, the world wants us to believe it's over, that the chapter has closed, the story has ended, and now it's time to move on. But anyone who has ever truly loved someone knows that's not how it works. Their body may be gone, their voice may no longer echo in the room, but the relationship that lives on in ways most people can't see. Love doesn't follow the rules of time or space. It isn't confined to a physical presence. When you build a life with someone, when you share dreams, arguments, laughter, routines, they don't just disappear because they stop breathing. Their imprint remains, stitched into the very fabric of your everyday life. You still hear them in your thoughts. You still feel them in certain moments. You still reach for them without thinking. That's not denial, that's connection. Grief is not just missing someone, it's learning how to be in a relationship with someone who isn't physically here anymore. It's learning to recognize their presence in the absence. In the way the wind moves through the trees, in the way your heart reacts when you see their favorite flower, in the way a song can suddenly bring tears to your eyes without warning. These aren't just memories, they're reminders that your bond transcended the body. For a husband who loses his wife, this truth becomes his lifeline. At first, everything feels hollow. The bed feels too big, the meals feel too quiet. He turns to speak to her and remembers she's not there, but over time he starts to realize that the relationship didn't end, it just changed form. He finds himself making decisions based on what she would say. He carries her voice in his mind like a compass. He sees her in their children's eyes, hears her in their laughter, feels her in the moments of stillness when everything slows down and the noise fades. This ongoing connection is not about refusing to accept the loss. It's about refusing to let love die just because a heartbeat stopped. Because true love doesn't end, it evolves. It shifts from physical to emotional, from presence to legacy. The strength of that relationship shows up in the choices he makes, in how he treats others with the same kindness she did, in how he picks up the causes she cared about, in how he keeps the traditions she started, in how he chooses to honor her, not just with grief, but with growth. People may wonder why he still speaks about her in the present tense, why her photo still stands beside his bed, why he still talks to her on long drives. What they don't understand is that those rituals aren't signs of being stuck, they're signs of deep, ongoing love. They are the ways he keeps her close, not to avoid the pain, but to honor the beauty of what they shared. Death ends a life, it stops a heartbeat, it silences a voice, but it does not erase the bond built between two souls who chose each other. That love, if nurtured, becomes a quiet source of strength, a reminder of what was real, a reason to keep going, and maybe that's the greatest legacy anyone can leave behind. A love so true that not even death can fully take it away. A relationship that continues quietly, powerfully, beautifully, long after the last goodbye.